check, check. Greg's with us. Patty's the only one that's not here, right?
Yes, I am here.
Teresa, you haven't heard from Patty?
I haven't heard from her today. I'm sorry.
We'll go ahead and start. Call to order for the regular board meeting of the Rainbow Municipal Water District Board of Directors for December 10th, 2024. Can I have a roll call, please?
President Hamilton,
Here.
Director Mack,
Here.
Director Townsend Smith,
Here.
Director Hoffman, here, Director Irvine.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Do I need to read the note on Greg?
The what? I'm sorry.
Do I need to read this note on Greg?
No, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda?
There are no amendments.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Townsend Smith. All those, roll call vote.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith,
Aye.
Director Hoffman,
Aye.
Director Irvine.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item number 6, public comment. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Rainbow Municipal Water District. However, any matters that require actions will be referred to staff for a report and action at a subsequent board meeting. As to matters on the agenda, if a request to make a public comment is received, an opportunity will be given to address the board when that matter is considered. I have 2 speaker requests. And do we have anybody online that has requested? Okay. Jeff Egan. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
This may have to come up a little bit. How's that? Can you hear me? Yeah, I wanted to come today to thank the district for the Gila hydrant, the ROS system up on Wilt. I'm a director with North County Fire, so I was invited to the grand opening 2.5 years ago now, has it been at least. I was impressive demonstration that we witnessed, but we got to see it in full action a month ago. I'm in kind of a unique situation as well because my property is contiguous to Lowell Ranch, where the garden fire started. My back door is probably 200 yards away from the flash point where the fire started. In fact, my neighbor called the fire in. In fact, that's why it was called the garden fire, because I live on Lake Garden Drive. I guess Lake Garden Fire is just too long, so it became the garden fire. So, and of course, yeah, it's Lowell Ranch, 200-acre ranch. The fire, my neighbor called it in. When I walked out, I think it was 20 by 20. It grew. Initial reports were up to 48 acres. I think that was downgraded to 25 acres. And I do have some acreage up in Big Bear, so I know what 48 acres looks like, and I knew that was not 48 acres, but nevertheless, it was very scary. A little too close to comfort. Fortunately, the winds were hitting in the east southeasterly direction, kind of away from my property. It slightly shifted north for 2 minutes, at which time I was about ready to get my keys and go. Then it shifted back. So we got to watch the helicopters drop continuously. And I believe we counted 4-minute round trip from the helicopters from SDG&E excuse me, from the sheriffs, the blue and white helicopters. Those circled, they dropped, they circled within 4 minutes. They were back dropping their 300 gallons again. We also got to watch the Type 1 Erickson helicopter. That's from SDG&E. That was very impressive, but they were clearly not getting clean water from a Gila tank because they had the nastiest looking black water that they were dropping. And I feel sorry for anybody who was under that water drop. They should probably get their, the health checked out very quickly. But just watching that partnership that we've developed with Rainbow Water in action was really impressive. So I just want to say thank you. And as those who've been on board for a while know that North County Fire, as a director with North County Fire, we definitely value our relationship and our partnership with Rainbow Water. I want to say, secondly, that, and I apologize if I come up to 3 minutes, please let me know. I also serve on the LAFCO, San Diego County LAFCO Special District Advisory Committee. We have a meeting coming up at the end of this month. Water districts are definitely well represented on that committee. I think 8 or 9 of the 15 seats belong to water districts. But I also know as an elected official locally that all of our North County, we have obviously very unique needs. And I think every special district within North County, North County, in our case, has its own unique needs. Of course, Jack Beebe is vice chair of that committee, but if anybody, I just wanted to address anybody on the board. If you have any concerns that you would like addressed before the Special District Advisory Committee, I have left some business cards up here with Therese. Feel free to give me a call. The number highlighted on there is my cell number. Love to hear from you if you have any special concerns you want brought. We only meet once or 2 to 3 times per year, the committee. So this meeting, we probably won't meet again until sometime next spring and maybe even in December. So please feel free to reach out if you have any concerns. So thanks again. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Well, this LAFCO meeting is held downtown, down in San Diego on Pacific Highway. And it is at 10 a.m. on December the 20th. Yeah, I can get you an actual address if you'd like, but yeah, you have. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We value partnership as well. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
I have a speaker request here from Lada, and I can't say your last name. I apologize. Lada Zagchek. Okay. I'm sorry. Like I said, I apologize. And you wanted to talk on taxes and billing? Is that correct? Yes.
Hello, everybody. I am customer from Rainbow for 26 years. In the 26 years, the water rates was increased minimum 8 times, minimum. So anyway, first of all, I would like to talk about the water meter size. The property where I live here on the top is 4321 Vista del Pacifico. It's on Peone, close to Wilt Road. So anyway, the property used to be only avocado grows. When the developer developed the land in the early 90s, they have to purchase water meter. The water meter size was established based on the existing grow. Today, there is almost no grow there, right? The water meter size is still the same. And based on the water meter size, I am charged, I will talk about myself, but everybody else, I charge a specific amount, but I don't need so much water. And I believe that it's not fair that because I have 1-inch water meter, I have to pay monthly payment $219, but I am not using the water like when I am using in the winter time, maybe 6 units, and summertime maybe 40 units is maximum because we are also collecting water from rainwater. Okay, So anyway, if the water meter in my particular case will change from 1 inch to 3/4 inch, I will save about $80 a month. It's a lot of money a year, right? I believe that it's not fair how Rainbow established the monthly payment based on the water meter size, but not on the usage. I would like to use example from San Diego Gas and Electric. San Diego Gas and Electric is charging monthly on distribution on the power, right? I am, in this particular case, in water meter, charge on size of the water meter, but I don't use the water meter. I'm using this only maybe a little bit, but not so much like somebody who make 100 units a month, pay the same money as somebody make only 6 units a month. And I believe that this one should be taken into consideration and review if it is pretty correct. The second question what I have is the property tax bill. On property tax bill, I have, for example, charge it's only $26.12, right? But principal, this is because water availability and the money is going to Rainbow. Because next to the charge is the phone number of Rainbow. And when I talked to in the past with Rainbow Billing, they didn't know what is it. The first time I found what is it about 3 weeks ago when the lady told me how many acres you have. I have 2.5 almost. Okay, this is based on the size of the acreage, but this has nothing to do with the water. The next one is on the property bill is also charged for Metropolitan Water District. I understand that Rainbow will now get the water from Metropolitan Water District. Will this have some influence on the tax which we pay for Metropolitan Water District or not? This one should be reviewed because when I will talk to tax treasurers, they will not know anything about this one. This one should be done, who is using this, and I know that Rainbow will be using Metropolitan Water District. The next one is, I have also on the water bill, 858 phone number. It's California Water Authority. And I'm just wondering if this one is also somehow bonded together with the San Diego Water Authority, or I know there will be a lot of changes in this one, but I'm just making a point about it. Thank you very much.
I can address a couple of those
Yeah,
those questions. I'll do the best I can. On the first point about the water meter size, I would suggest, I don't know if you've talked to our customer service reps yet, because there's usually 2 primary issues. With somebody in your case, right?
Mhm.
Change the use on my property. And there's a couple things you can do. One is you can look at your rate classification. So are you an ag customer or a residential customer? Because that does impact your fixed costs versus your variable costs. It sounds like you're probably on the ag rate, given you said a 1 inch was $200 and some odd dollars on the fix.
$219.
Yeah, so our customer service will walk you all through that and see if there's a better rate category for you to be
Mhm.
to be able to do that. The other thing we do, and there is certain criteria you have to meet, but you can downsize your meter. Again, there's certain criteria you have to make, but if you're not using water, that's one of the key ones, and there's a few others. So they can walk you through that too, if there's an option to actually downsize your meter because you're not using the amount of water that you used to. That is definitely an option. So I'd say look into those 2 things, and our
Mhm.
customer service, again, they'll look at your bill and they can walk you right through it. On the property tax bill, the $26, that's a charge, and it's been the same rate for many, many, many years. It covers the readiness to serve charge. So that's a charge that comes from Metropolitan to us. And the intention of that was to cover, and it's just a fixed rate, that Metropolitan charges us. So that one's there. The Metropolitan, everybody's still a member of Metropolitan, so that's not going to change.
Okay.
Metropolitan charge will still be there. The one that will change is the County Water Authority. That one is going to come off because of detachment. Eastern has we're now wholesaling our water through Eastern. They have a similar charge, but it will be less. So it's going to be a little bit less. So you'll see on your next property tax bill, so a year from now,
Mhm.
you'll actually see that County Water Authority charge go off. You will see an Eastern readiness to serve. They have the same charge coming from Metropolitan, but it will be less. They charge a little bit less than County Water Authority. So
Thank you.
I hope that helps.
Perfect.
Okay.
No, I would like that it's not understand like complain or something, but I believe that some administration with the water purchase change, and I think that it should be anchored in our property bill, definitely.
Yeah. So you will see some changes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Dorothea Flanagan. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
We will.
It's on this. I need you to have this because that's the letter I got from Chad Williams, which was unacceptable,
Okay.
as usual, saying nothing.
I'm Dorothea Flanagan of 3224 Gopher Canyon Road. We have a 1/10 of a mile long driveway, technically called a road, being longer than 150 feet. We received a letter from Chad basically never agreeing in writing once again for us to install a concrete driveway in its entirety. Whether you want to call it asking for a variance or technologically getting upgraded. We noticed that your teamwork and technology signs have been removed and replaced since the last time we were here, because we really don't want to have to give Rainbow an education about how you don't have to use a backhoe to tear up a driveway in order to replace 11.5-foot long pipe that runs under a driveway. And that's why you have to have blacktop, because it would be easier than tearing up concrete. I've talked with the best in plumbing, and they said, we don't do that. We either lay a pipe in the first place under there, a sleeve, that then a new pipe can go through it. We already tried to get the rotten 1-inch pipe replaced before we ever would do anything on top, and still get a no for an answer, and don't you touch it. The other solution is they bore underneath a driveway, which we're happy to pay for it. And I was told, oh, that's too expensive. That's why the district doesn't do it that way. Costs you money and time and trouble to bring a big backhoe over there and tear up somebody's driveway. No tear-ups are even needed. I cannot work with Chad Williams. Okay. Neither, I can't get a concrete guy to even do a driveway for a ridiculous proposal out of this place. They gave the fire department to make my driveway 336 feet of concrete and the rest blacktop. Nobody does that. Any real estate person will tell you that's a jackass presentation. I'm sorry, but I got to tell it just like it is. There's no need to. We will not be putting a driveway on top of your service line, which is outside of our driveway. We're only talking about a 1-inch pipe running under it that shouldn't be there anyway, because the plumbing should be extended down Gopher Canyon Road and meters be put on the street like the rest of the United States, rather than all over the neighborhood and in people's backyards. So what we're asking is, we want it in writing so I can get a concrete contractor to do this job. They don't want surprises. They don't want to write up a $195,000 contract with somebody and then find out down at the county, Chad or somebody over here is saying, oh, that's within 10 feet of our pipe or 5 feet of our pipe. And we don't do the latest technology. We are asking in writing, no surprises. I want to hire the best. No surprises. They write up a job like that. Concrete's permanent. And they want to know, nobody's going to say to them, blacktop 1/3 of the way. The fire department sent me over a picture of that. Sent me the picture. He says, this is where we're at. And state law says they can, it's a right of way for them in this easement. They can go up behind my house on that level and back in and back out, or they can use the hammerhead at the level below my house and back in or back onto my neighbor and go down his driveway. And he happens to be a fireman. He wants to replace his driveway, but he doesn't want this kind of hell. He's got to break up every day, cracked up driveway because of septic tank pumpers, SDG&E, bucket lifters to go up to transformers, fire engines that weigh 80,000 plus pounds. It just doesn't make sense that you fight people. I've already investigated you guys. You've had 30 lawsuits in less than 20 years of people who have to deal with you like that because you don't know how to collaborate in a proactive manner. Pardon me for using my educational leadership degree to explain what reactive management is. Somehow you have an attorney telling you, just don't respond to those people out in the neighborhood about our bad code. Write up a letter that doesn't make any commitments whatsoever.
Ms. Flanagan, can you wrap it up?
Yes, we want it in writing that we can put a driveway in its entirety in concrete. We want good technology, not a backhoe. We're willing to pay for it. Nobody would have to have any trouble whatsoever. We don't want to have to bring a lawsuit.
Thank you very much.
We'll put something in writing. We'll put something in writing.
I appreciate
Okay.
it. Been a solid year now. I will not put blacktop.
No, I understand.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. That's why we got rid of that person on the board before her. It's called ignore the customers.
Thank you.
No,
We'll get her something in writing.
yes. I give you back the letter. No further public comment. Do we have committee meeting summaries? Budget and finance?
Mr. President, members of the board. First of all, I just want to thank Jake for covering for me at your November 19th meeting when I was unable to be here and report on behalf of the two committees that I chair. So Jake, you and your team, thank you very much for carrying my freight there. And since your board meeting on the 19th, the Budget and Finance Committee has not met, so I do not have a budget and finance report, but I do have an engineering and operations report. Mr. President, would you like me to continue on with that?
Yes, please.
Okay. We met on December 3rd, which was a week ago. We had a number of items on the agenda. 3 of them are on your agenda today, and all 3 of them were favorably reviewed by the committee, and the committee did recommend that the board move forward with the staff recommendations, and that would be your item number 9F, the purchase order for odor control chemicals. I'm sure you'll hear more about that. Item 9C, adopting an ordinance amending the admin code to incorporate a chapter on safety policies. I think that was very well done. Turns out there was no content in that chapter at all, and now there will be content if you move forward, which is a good thing. And then finally, your item number 9D, order adopting an ordinance amending the admin code concerning risk management retention practices. And that too was a very well thought out item. So those are the items. Next time when the committee meets, we'll be hearing about the completion of the Gopher Canyon emergency job that was done. Apparently that job went well. We'll be finding out how we did on finance and other pieces of that. There is probably be hearing a pump station statement of completion, the pump station project, which would then come to you. And we'll be hearing also about the Morrow tank subsidence item that has been going on for a while, and the measurements of that. So we'll hear about that. And a couple of other items. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Okay.
Since I live below that tank, this is news to me.
Oh, Mr. President, we have kept it a well-kept secret just so that people would not get unduly alarmed. No. It was reported to the committee some time ago that there was a very, 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 very small amount of subsidence on that tank. The engineering and the operations crew have put devices in place to continue to measure. We're going to be getting an update on that, but at the committee meeting, we did obviously ask, is there any danger that this thing is going to suddenly go? And there did not seem to be a concern about it, but it is something that we must attend to.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Is that about right? Chad, Robert, did I phrase that right? Okay.
That's the Morrow tank too, not the Morrow reservoir.
Right.
Oh,
Tank.
okay.
It's the tank.
Yeah, much
Tank,
smaller
okay.
tank that sits next to
The
Morrow
reservoir.
yes.
But I think that tank holds what? 4 million gallons?
It's good size, 4 million. I
It's a
think.
good-
4 million gallons. Yeah. Okay.
It's not tiny,
By
but
the time it got to me, it'd be a lot less. Later. I understand Communication and Customer Service Committee did not meet today.
Yes, has not met since the last board meeting. I just have a couple of short notes on what's going to be discussed at the next meeting that's scheduled for, I believe, next week, right?
Mhm.
Time is
Yes.
blurry. So the crop swap update, we're close to $1 million, and our customers have received 960,000 total so far. So we're still leading in participation. The newsletter that is going out for December will highlight some of the financial benefits of this detachment, the stronger voice in voting for the Eastern Board, highlight some of our accomplishments for 2024, our top workplace designation. And we'll also answer some of the tax questions that customers will get when they start seeing their property tax bills, like our public comment. He had a question about the water authority. So that is explained in the newsletter, and there'll be a special mailer going out for that as well. And we're having next Wednesday, we're having a blood drive that's open to the public. It'll be here at the district. People can RSVP through our website. There's a sliding banner there where they can RSVP, participate in that. It's from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Wednesday, December 18th. That's all.
Thank you, Caroline. Consent calendar. Approval of the board minutes. That's all that's there.
I move that we approve the November 19th board meeting minute.
Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Hamilton. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Aye.
Roll call, sorry. Of course I have it.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith,
Aye.
Director Hoffman. Aye. Director Irvine,
Aye.
motion carries unanimously.
Item number 9, action items. Consider the appointment of board officers.
Yes, so this was something we actually talked about last month. A little bit of a change in the procedure. Just in that, and really thought just a little more, I don't know, procedural to actually elect president and vice president as in December. And then typically we appoint all of our committees and representation or, you know, all our outside organizations and things in January. So basically gives the president, vice president a chance and the rest of the board to weigh in on exactly where they'd like to serve and those kind of things. So a little bit of an orderly process to get to the open meeting in January to do those positions. So so obviously this is a board item, but what's in front of you today is election of a board president and vice president. And it basically just follows the same procedures, right? You know, nomination, somebody has to nominate a second and a vote, right? Okay.
Floor is open for nominations.
Well, Mr. Hamilton, you want to do it again?
I'm not objectionable to it.
Well, then I'm happy to nominate you for board president.
Second.
Who seconded?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Irvine for nomination for Hayden Hamilton to be the board president. And if he's willing to serve, would you like to serve as vice president?
Yeah, I'll do that.
I'll nominate Director Mack as vice president.
Second.
Moved by nomination of Director Mack for vice president was proposed by Director Hamilton and seconded by Director Townsend Smith. Roll call vote. Can we vote? We'll vote on both of these together. Okay. Are there any other nominations? Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith,
Aye.
Director Hoffman. Aye. Director Irvine,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
motion carry 5-0.
Thank you. Item number B, consider approval of the 2025 regular board meeting schedule that was in the packet. Does anybody have any discussion or questions regarding the proposed meeting dates? For our new board members, I'll point out that if you look at the last two meetings, there is no November meeting. We normally meet the third Tuesday of each month. There is a change because of holidays and things like that, that we forego the November meeting and pull the December meeting forward. And it probably has an asterisk because there might be a conflict with a major conference. So that's what the little asterisk stands for. Is there a motion to accept the calendar as proposed or to amend?
I moved it. Accept it as proposed.
I'll second.
Moved by Director Townsend Smith, seconded by Director Mack. Roll call vote, please.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith,
Aye.
Director Hoffman.
Is this where we have discussion? I'm talking about the time.
Oh. What's your?
The meeting times.
Yeah, is there a reason why we have it during the middle of the day and not at where maybe more people can join after work?
Well, I mean, this is,
Has that ever happened before?
we
Occasional
have,
special meeting.
yeah, we have varied the times at times. Really what we found, I mean, obviously it pushes there's pluses and minuses to both, right? It pushes, some of our staff into overtime and things like that. So there's some impacts there. And to be honest, we didn't have a lot of people show up to actually, regardless of whether it's one or we did a lot of our committee meetings, even just in the last year or so
3:30.
later in the afternoon. And it is something we've talked about, especially with our committees. And it was actually Director Mack that brought this up. And I thought it was a pretty good idea, at least for our committees. And I think this might be kind of a trial to see if we can get more people to attend and participate. Is holding a couple each year later on. Yeah, maybe twice a year or something, doing a 5 o'clock or 5:30 or 6 o'clock meeting.
Once a quarter.
Yeah, or twice a year or something. And which kind of limits the impact, as far as, what goes on here, but obviously could give that opportunity for some that aren't available in the day. So I think we'll look at that here in the next year.
But if I could also comment on that. Along the same lines, certainly this is something that as new director, we'll go ahead and approve the schedule, but I think the point from Director Hoffman is well taken, that people do struggle to make meetings during the day, working folks, moms, taking care of kids. I understand there might be some historical information showing that there's not a lot of attendance perhaps, but maybe that's because we've been doing it in the afternoon so long. But I think for this year, at least my position is, let's go ahead. I will go ahead and support the schedule as is, but I certainly think next year we should take a look at that. The other item that's relevant too is that it allows us to report out of closed session. For example, if we were to start closed session at 6 p.m., open session at 7, then we could report out without reconvening the meeting, and then more people would be in attendance to hear the reporting out from closed session. So I think there's some good points for considering that, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm fine with the schedule this year. So it's something maybe we could discuss the following year.
On the committees, would that be something that we'd have to do months in advance? Because I know the residents in Rainbow, as we were discussing earlier, there's definitely some people in the Rainbow ratepayers that would love to come to those meetings. And that was expressed to me several times, that they'd like to have something that's a little bit more later in the day that they can attend.
Okay.
So is that something we'd have to do months in advance? Because I would like to see 1 or 2 of those change.
Yeah, I think we would want to, just to give everybody
Communication.
plenty of notice. Yeah, so me and Teresa will look at the schedule and maybe plan for a couple of meetings. Probably budget and finance would be a good one. I think that's a point of interest to a lot of people. So maybe we'll try to schedule a couple of those for this coming year. We'll use it as a good test case and see if we can. Okay. Yeah.
And could we also do engineering? Because there,
yeah. Yep.
Because some people suggest they'd like to go to that too.
You're going to do it for those two, you might as well consider the third one as well.
Okay. Great point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, we still need to,
Okay. Hoffman, aye.
she needs to do a roll call.
Thank
I'll do
you.
it again.
I have 3 ayes. I heard Hoffman, aye. Irvine?
Aye.
Irvine? That's a 5-0. Thank you.
Therese, did you call the complete roll?
I had 3 ayes prior to the discussion.
Okay,
And then
sorry.
I got the aye from Director
Thank
Hoffman
you.
and Irvine.
Wasn't counting. Consider the adoption of an ordinance amending the administrative code to incorporate chapter 7.01. Let's see.
Good afternoon, members of the board. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Luke Johnson. I'm the Safety and Risk Management Officer here for Rainbow Water District. So this action item before you, like Flynn had mentioned earlier, the admin code, chapter 7 currently has the title header for safety and operations, but there's no content in there at all. It's just a blank chapter. So we've been working on establishing kind of just the basics, very high level policies and procedures, mostly referencing Cal OSHA, of having an IAPP, maintaining the OSHA 300 logs for workplace injury. It's just very high level that way we don't have to come back and make changes frequently to the document. And our standard operating procedures is more the avenue where we can quickly make changes and updates as Cal OSHA changes up their safety requirements. So very high level overview, just kind of outlining our policy and our program, the roles and responsibilities of the general manager and myself in risk and safety, providing training to the employees, and basically covering the OSHA general duty clause that we are going to provide a safe and safe work environment for our employees, just identifying any risk. So very high level, not a lot of detail in there, but mostly referencing just Cal OSHA.
Any discussion or questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Irvine. Sorry. I'm getting inputs from all ears. Roll call,
I'm sorry, the second was by Director
Irvine.
Irvine?
Yeah,
Director Irvine made the
that's fine.
motion.
Yeah.
Townsend Smith, second, I
Oh,
think. Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith,
Aye.
Director Hoffman.
Aye.
Director Irvine.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Item number D, consider adoption of an ordinance amending the administrative code section 5.05.050.08. Risk management records retention management reference guide.
Yes, so this board action item, at the same time, we were working on the administrative code. The SB 553 was passed this past year for workplace violence policies. There is a retention policy, a part of that program that they will be maintained for 5 years. So we had to come in and update the retention policy anyways to include that in there. So that's the last line item on that retention policy that was added. While looking at it and kind of reviewing Cal OSHA, we had a lot of items that were being retained much longer than Cal OSHA requires. Some items that were permanent for permitting that are only required for 3 years. Other items that were, 2 years in our safety policy, but Cal OSHA now requests 5. So basically making a lot of the corrections via current Cal OSHA standards. And there's a lot of grammatical changes too. So changing a lot of the line items. Some of them previously just had like the number 5 in there rather than saying it's, from the time of the injury versus the current permit. So I went through and cleaned up a lot of that portion of it as well. And then the last line item is the media type. A lot of these items were being tracked and being held by paper. I've got 2 large file cabinets in my office over there of paperwork that's just being filed away. We've gone to a safety management system now where we can keep all these documents electronically. They can be uploaded, referenced by all of our team members in the field, whether they're online, not online. So you'll see a lot of these have been updated to be paper. Usually the original copy, I'll keep them here for safekeeping and to make sure that they don't get damaged out in the field, but they're also being saved electronically as well. So that's the majority of the updates to this document. Yes.
Question for you. We don't use microfiche at all? Is that just outdated now?
I'm not familiar with microfiche.
Yes, it's outdated.
Yeah, we started using, there's a company that we're kind of trialing it this year. It's Site Docs. They basically specialize in construction safety management software. So our teams can go out and they can do site inspections, sign documents in the field, do trenching and excavation inspections. And it also has a aspect to it that's all the document management as well. So all the permits are filed in there for each of our job sites, and it makes it very easy for the crew to access those things.
Are we still required to keep hard copies, paper copy?
No, so and even like the SDS binders, everyone's familiar. Most work sites, you have the big fat SDS binder. Even now, Cal OSHA's recommended to go to electronic.
Right.
Everyone's using that now. So a lot of this stuff we're kind of getting away from paper and going to electronic copies.
Cool. Any additional discussion or questions?
Move recommended action.
He moves recommended action.
Thank you. That's what
Interpreter.
Yes, thank you, Greg. That's a new one on me. So Greg has recommended that we adopt the thing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Director Mack. Roll call vote, please.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith,
Aye.
Director Hoffman,
Aye.
Director Irvine,
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Luke. I just wanted to give my appreciation. I mean, really bringing these policies up to date. It's something, we're always continuously trying to do, but having, Luke's excellent both in the field and here. And those policies in particular, I think you read them and they're very high level, but they do set a standard for what we're trying to achieve, right? At that kind of higher level. And so I think it just provides a nice, baseline for the district. Obviously, like Luke said, there's a lot of SOPs in that behind it where we're, things in the field, but sets the baseline for, hey, this is a standard we hold ourselves to and our employees. So that's, and if it saves one injury, honestly, it's pays for itself beyond. So, yeah. So thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Luke.
Item number E, consider adoption of an ordinance amending administrative code section 8.11.040.09, connection and meter charges, and section 8.30.020 leak policy, removing references to the San Diego County Water Authority.
Yeah, these were the two spots in our admin code that reference County Water Authority. One being the capacity charges. So we no longer will pay, and County Water Authority collects a capacity fee from their retail agencies for each new connection. So 1 inch meter goes in, a portion of the capacity fee that we collect goes to them. And Eastern does not as a wholesaler. So really that charge, it's one of the benefits, both for if you're just building a single family residential home or for a development that wants to go in. Our capacity fees are coming down by 35 to 40+%.
41%, depending on the size.
Yeah. From what they were. So that's one of the big benefits. But this was the portion of the admin code that dictated that portion of that goes to the County Water Authority. So we no longer need that anymore. The other one is our leak policy. So any property owner that has a leak on their property, we have a program where we'll provide a leak adjustment. They get the leak fixed, and we will actually give them some of the money back for the water that actually passed through the meter. We charge for the water that passed through the meter because that, otherwise everybody else has to pay for it. But everything else that's associated with it, any of those charges on top of it, that's kind of where that leak adjustment comes from. Those we'll take that away to give a little bit of relief to a customer who's, hey, I had a leak. It wasn't any fault of mine. I fixed it. I responsibly fixed it. We like to encourage that. So, but it referenced County Water Authority O&M charges, which again just don't apply anymore. So this cleans up our admin code.
Cool. Any questions or discussion? Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt recommended action.
Okay,
I'll second.
seconded by Director Hoffman. Heard her first.
Okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Smith.
Aye.
Director Hoffman,
Aye.
Director Irvine.
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
motion carries unanimous.
Item number F. Consider the approval of a sole source purchase order with Evoqua for odor control chemicals.
Good afternoon, board members. Welcome Director Irvine and Director Hoffman. My name is Robert Gutierrez. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Rainbow Water District. The matter before you today is in regards to odor control for our wastewater system. Wastewater odors obviously can be a nuisance to homeowners and actually staff that have to work around them, but they also are corrosive in nature to our piping and the appurtenances within our wastewater system. Several years ago, we started to receive complaints from residents about nuisance odors. We previously didn't really get those types of complaints. And we think that part of the reason was some of the new development which caused us to increase our flows in wastewater. So we have more wastewater because we have more homes. we decided to start looking at different chemicals from different manufacturers on how to mitigate these odors and reduce what's called hydrogen sulfide, the corrosiveness of the odor. We looked at 3 different companies. Suez was one of them, USP, and Evoqua. And we basically did trial runs with each company to see which chemical worked the best. We're also looking at which company would provide excellent customer service and which chemical, when I say works the best, would be non-corrosive to our infrastructure and also give us the biggest bang for our buck. So when I say that, meaning we don't have to inject 1,000 gallons to have minimal effect, right? So we want to inject the least amount of chemical, get the maximum effect. The study took place at the Horse Creek Lift Station, which is over here off of Highway 70, just east of Interstate 15 on Highway 76 by Pankey Road. That's where we did the injection. And we tracked that chemical and we put, they're called odologs, but they detect the chemical all the way down to the final lift station at Little Gopher Canyon and Old River Road. So our main trunk sewer line runs down Highway 76 and essentially at Olive Hill, it crosses 76, runs down Camino del Rey, hooks a right and runs down Old River, all the way to Old River and Little Gopher. That's our last sewer lift station. And from there, it gets pumped under the river, down North River Road to Oceanside. And City of Oceanside treats our sewage. So a little bit of history there on how this works out. So each one of the studies, they set up at Horse Creek, they put monitoring devices, and what we were monitoring is what's called parts per million on the sulfides. So we were trying to see if we can get them below 25 parts. Anything below 25 parts is not necessarily detectable by the human nose. So at our various lift stations and some different manholes, we'd open up the manhole, put the odolog detector in there, close it. So we did this with these 3 different companies over the last several years. The last company that we did it with, Evoqua, actually gave us some really good results. The dosing was fairly minimal. There was no damage to any of our infrastructure, and the way they came in and set everything up was really clean and efficient. So they set up a small 3,000 gallon tank at Horse Creek, a chemical feed pump. They ran good hard plumbing into the wet well over there. Very clean, very professional. The other thing is their customer service has been outstanding. They've been there for all the questions, all the reports, everything we need, proposals, quotes. They've just been really good on the spot. Consequently, their price that they gave us per gallon was nearly half of their competitors. Okay, so that was a bonus that we didn't anticipate. And they were the last ones that we worked with. Also, this is the same chemical that Oceanside is injecting. So they inject chemical at our last lift station to cover their section in Oceanside. So it's the same chemical, which is a bonus to both of us because sometimes if you mix different chemicals, there could be issues or it renders one chemical ineffective. So this is actually a matching chemical. To date, or since, well, this budget we budgeted $90,000 for. We went to the board and budgeted $90,000. We have expended just over $23,000 that included this study, the tank, the chemical feed pump, and chemical up to this point right now. That leaves us just over $66,000 to get us to July. What we're coming to the board with today is essentially asking for a sole source agreement with Evoqua to provide us this chemical until July. Then what we would do is come back to the board in July and ask again for the same thing. It may be with a different chemical company. It may be with Evoqua. It depends on the price. It depends on a lot of different factors. We had some questions from the E&O committee about this. One of them was, could we piggyback off of Oceanside's prices? So the price to include tax for us was $3.92. The price for Oceanside is just over $3. So we called the vendor, had that conversation with them. They laughed at me a little bit. And they said, when you start buying 400,000 gallons of chemical,
That's not so funny.
we'll start talking about a different price for you guys. And no, you can't piggyback. Okay. There was another concern about, not a concern, but a great comment from one of the directors about technology and how the dosing works. So right now we set a target. We say we don't want anything above 25 parts per million on basically what you can smell. The dosing for that could be 60 gallons per day of chemical, let's say. There's technology that's emerging out there right now where you can put devices to measure that odor and then send a signal and automatically make the adjustments. So we were asked to look into that by one of the committee members. The last item that came to mind by one of the committee members was who controls the dosing? So is it the vendor or is it us? So if the vendor controls it, are they just going to keep pushing more and more and more and more, and we're just going to keep paying and paying and paying? We both control it. So the way it's been working in the trial, we tell them, okay, we want 25 parts per million, and they dose appropriately for that. We can monitor that via their website, so we can see exactly what they're dosing and what the results are. During the weekends, the holidays like Thanksgiving, we have more people here. The flows pick up on our wastewater system, so we want to dose a little bit more. So they've been really good about doing that. But I talked to the vendor about this and about what does it take for us to get control. He said, nothing, just tell me if you want it. No problem. We'll give it to you. You'll get an app on your phone. You can log in on the website and handle whatever you want to do for dosing. He did caution. He said, if you do the dosing and you fat finger it and you put too much chemical in the system and then you call back and say, hey, we made a mistake. We put too much chemical. Can you reimburse us? It's not going to happen. He said, but if we put too much chemical in for whatever reason, then we cover that cost. Part of this contract also requires them to maintain the pump system, the tank system, all the injection system. So that's all covered by them. If parts of that fail, they'll get an alarm on it and they'll respond to it. So it seems like we got all the questions answered and our bases covered with them. Rainbow's never had odor control ever before. So this is a first time. And as our system grows, the odors become more pronounced. We just built Thoroughbred Lift Station right near the homes over there. It's a good thing for us. It's good for our ratepayers. It's good for the staff that's working around there. It's good for our pipes and appurtenances. With that, I'm open to any questions. Yes, sir.
Robert, then, since this is like a pilot program, you started it at Horse Creek, then are you saying then in July, then we would start unilaterally adding throughout of the system, or?
No. So the reason we picked Horse Creek is because that follows the main trunk line going down Highway 76, the 16-inch pipe that goes down Highway 76 for sewer. Everything's dumping into that. So like coming down Gerd, Montrot dumps into that. Then when you get over by the elementary schools over there, they're dumping into that on Old River. So it kind of captures everything. So the dosing location would stay the same.
But then all the ratepayers benefit from Horse Creek?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
You're dosing at the high end of the input and measuring at the low end of the output. You know, and balancing your dosage to cover the whole thing.
Then also, whose responsibility is to fill the tank? Is that something we have to monitor, or they monitor that?
So that's also monitored by them. So they have sensors on the tank. When it gets too low, then the shipment will come automatically and they'll just top the tank off.
Do they notify you when they do that? Or, I mean, do they do, because they do have locks on those gates. So.
Yeah, so we've given them a key to our lock for the gates. So there's the yellow county gate that for that big lock behind our lift station. And then it's the same key to get into our gates. That's something we also will monitor on our apps or our website as far as what those tank levels. So we're kind of, I don't want to say we're a backup, but we're pretty judicious in monitoring things of this nature. So like we have, as a good example, our fuel tanks out here at the yard for our work trucks. We monitor the levels of fuel in there. And when we think maybe the fuel company says, well, it can wait till tomorrow. We're like, no, we're too low. We're not comfortable with that. Can you come today? Sure enough, they show up. And that's actually just what happened today. So we're pretty good at paying attention to all this stuff.
One last question.
Yep.
Is it consistent throughout the year of waste?
Yep.
Or is there a high and low period?
Yeah.
Some holidays. Holidays are higher, correct?
They are. So Thanksgiving's a peak wastewater day for us. The biggest day is Super Bowl.
No.
Yeah, I've heard that. And it's not unique to us.
No, it's called the Great Flush.
The super flush.
Christmas is another decent one. Christmas, Thanksgiving, and the Super Bowl are probably the heaviest days. Now, if you tackle a wet weather event on any one of those days, it gets exponentially worse. So if we've had a couple weeks of rain already, and then something like that hits, which is usually what happens in the Super Bowl, it's happened before. We've had a wet day on the Super Bowl. Then our system, for those of you that are new to the water industry, we get what's called infiltration intrusion. So we get rainwater into the wastewater system. And then that coupled with everybody being home on Christmas or Thanksgiving or for the Super Bowl increases our flows. With the odor control, what's interesting is you dose a little bit more during warmer weather because the wastewater gets warmer and it starts to off gas versus during the winter time, you dose a lot less, if anything at all. Because it's colder and you may have that little bit of rainwater in there, it's diluting it and it's moving faster through the system. Yes, sir.
Go back to your comment about who controls the dosage. It's not clear to me where you left it. Are we going to control the dosage or is it they're going to control the dosage or some combination of the two?
It's a combination of the two. So currently right now we email them and say, we want you to reduce the H2S gas to 25 parts per million. And then they'll say, okay, that dosing is going to be 65 gallons per day. And we say, that's fine. We're also going to back that up with having full control of that dosing system via their website. So we're going to go both ways. And we'll figure out, which one works best. To them, it doesn't matter either way.
How do you determine that someone inadvertently overdosed?
So we can go back and say who logged in and what their login is. So let's say one of the wastewater guys logged in, he wasn't paying attention, he did something. And then next day we realize, where'd all the chemical go? And go back and see who did what.
Okay. So there's a monitoring system to control.
Correct.
To log who does the dosing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Robert,
Yes.
I have a question. How much do you anticipate after July this contract will cost?
So 90,000 is what we budgeted. And that was only for that was from July to July. With the CPI this last year was about 3.5%. I suspect we would go in the budget talks asking for 120,000 for the following year. That would include CPI. That's a guess. And why I say it's a guess is because we have a pretty good number of what it took to get us from July to now, but we don't know what the number is going to be to get us through the winter time when we may not be using as much chemical. And this is the first time we've ever done it. So we don't have any data to go back on and say, this is historically what we would spend.
But you'll get some of that winter data at least over the next 6 months.
Correct. Yeah, if not sooner.
Rick?
Can you go to the mic so everybody can hear you?
Stand up here. So 2 technical questions. Does Oceanside benefit from now we're pre-treating where before we were just sending raw? Is their chemical going to be reduced?
Question.
Which I think the answer is probably yes, but I don't know.
They may have to treat less because we're treating.
Yeah, I kind of makes sense. And the dosing is continuous, hourly, as needed, pretty much. Second question has to do with cost. So there's obviously the direct cost of this contract, and then there's staff time to monitor this, manage all this. Is that all allocated to sewer or is it segregated from water?
Good questions.
Okay, so the costs are segregated from water. This is sewer only. Right, so it's sewer staff are the only ones that would control it. I couldn't honestly answer the question of whether Oceanside would have to reduce what they're doing. So what they're doing is at Old River and Little Gopher, and that is only taking care of what's going down North River Road. What we're dosing is only trying to get down to that point. So essentially, by the time it gets down to that point, there could be some odors that are still being smelled down there. So we're not trying to dose through the lift station and past the lift station. We're just trying to get it enough to when we get to the lift station, you barely can tell it's there anymore. So I'm inclined to think that they're not going to have to change anything on their end. So, and the other thing,
I don't understand that, Robert, because if we're pumping raw right now and now we're pumping something that is odor free, then the converse of that is they're getting something that's odor free, so they don't need to dosage as much.
well, here's this might add more confusion to it.
Yeah.
So they're dosing at our lift station.
Yeah.
They're dosing through the 16-inch pipe that goes down North River Road.
Right.
That's our pipe.
Our pipe. Yeah.
And our manholes.
Yep.
Yeah. So their dosing is benefiting us
Us.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand that.
And I think it over time because it sequesters the odor, right? So over time, as you keep traveling, then if you don't dose enough and it goes long enough,
It builds back up
it'll
again.
come. So they
Yeah.
probably to keep it, that's a long run, right? From lift
Yeah.
station 2, then all the way into Oceanside. So there could be, I guess we could take a look, but they're still going to have to dose to keep it sequestered.
It's like chlorine. It's not a biolog. No, it's persistent, but not. What's that?
I was just gonna say, the people online can't hear
hear.
the
Oh.
conversation or the questions.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And you also talked about adding a automatic coupling between gas measurement and
So
dosing.
one of the committee members asked us to look into that. So we reached out to 2 different vendors, waiting to hear back from them if that's
Okay.
possible. So that pretty much
Something for
eliminates.
next year.
Yeah, and it eliminates the human part of dosing, right? It would just do it automatically and we just monitor that.
Reduces the manpower effort.
I have a I have a question for Mr. Gutierrez. Actually, it might be better for the general manager. If you know, just out of curiosity, sort of the decision process on locating a sewer lift station so close to a retail center and a residential neighborhood. Don't know what the thought process was behind that. Obviously, that contributes to having the discussion on the nuisance odor. And if you know, or if you could shed some light on why that location was selected for a lift station, and also comment, if you can, on if we have to do any further expansions or infrastructure improvements to the sewer system such as a lift station. Can we give consideration to that location in terms of its proximity to residential neighborhoods so we would not incur that issue in the future?
Do that.
President Hamilton, he's got some history.
Since I was here and it's in my division, Greg, the situation was there was a lift station there already and it needed to be fixed. And we looked at a number of different locations in terms of alternatives to locate that thing.
Okay.
One of the considerations was across 76.
Yeah, right.
And it turns out that you have a native heritage site on the west side of Camino del Rey.
Okay.
Caltrans would not cooperate with us on the east side of Camino del Rey on the south side of the street.
Okay.
The other corner section there is all rock and would have been cost prohibitive to locate it across from the gas station. So it got located at essentially about the only spot that we could put. And there was a great deal of concern voiced by the board relative to potential odors.
Right.
You, as part of your tour, you might get Jake or whoever is giving you the facility tour to take you by that lift station. It is pretty well self-contained. I don't see very many odors coming out of that with the way it's been constructed and built.
Okay, so in other words, there was quite a bit of effort made to try to avoid that location, but as it turned out, that was pretty much the only feasible location that could have been located.
That's totally it. I mean, we even ran into problems with Caltrans and trying to deal with the pipe that runs under 76 and had to get very creative in how we solved that problem, which the team did quite exceedingly well, to the point that Caltrans was surprised we never came back and asked them for a variance.
I'll comment on the forward looking.
Great, thank you.
We do have eventually. So we have a one fairly significant development over off on the Vessels property, the old Vessels property. So
where's that?
That's
Ocean Breeze.
Yeah, Ocean Breeze, south side of 76,
off East Lilac,
kind of over by San Luis Racetrack, by San Luis Racetrack.
Got it.
So there's 400 homes or so that are kind of in process over there, and so they're probably a little ways out. They are working on it, but probably several years out. When that development goes, and there's some other kind of local development over there. There is a need for there's a small lift station over on that side that needs to be upgraded, replaced. And that's actually something we're working on now. We do own a site over there. It is not ideal it's not an ideal location for a lift station. It's not where we want to be. And so actually, Chad's been coordinating with the county. We're actually in talks with them right now to try to get a site over. They own all that park area that used to be the old golf course, the old San Luis Rey golf course. And it's it's got a lot more open space and some separation from residential. And so we're trying to commandeer a site there, and then I think we would offload the site that we own now, which is right in the middle of a residential neighborhood. So not ideal for a sewer lift station. So point well taken, and yeah, we are definitely, that is one of our key considerations when we're looking at these things, just because of odors and nuisance and those kind of things. So appreciate that.
Thank you for that information.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Hamilton. Roll call vote, please.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith,
Aye.
Director Hoffman,
Aye.
Director Irvine,
Aye.
Director Hamilton.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 10, information items. Operations report.
So I won't be long. Try and hold it to about an hour. Be patient with me.
That's why Flint's leaving.
Yeah, It's heard it before. Don't leave, Rick. All right. Normally I don't have anything to say, but I wanted to touch on what's going on with the public safety power shutoff that we're in right now.
Yes, please.
So starting Saturday, we were being made aware of the pending public safety power shutoffs. We were given 72-hour notice that some of our key facilities would be without power. On Sunday, we attended a meeting Sunday morning with SDG&E and we're given a 48-hour notice. And it got down to on Monday, we got a 4-hour notice. So historically, what we do when we have a red flag warning or red flag watch on the water side, we fill all the tanks up to about 75%. Normally, the water in those tanks fluctuates. And it's up to the operators. They make those changes 3 times a day. They decide how much water they want in there, how deep they want it to fluctuate. I like to tell people it's kind of like if you take a glass of water, put it on your countertop, come back tomorrow, would you drink that water? Probably not. But if you knew every hour I was refreshing that water in the cup, you probably wouldn't have a problem drinking it. We do the same with the tanks. So they're up and down, up and down. When we get these warnings, we like to hold the tanks at 75% full. And that's for two reasons. One's for firefighting, so there's plenty of water for firefighting. The other one is in case we have main breaks, that it buys us enough time to get out there, shut that line down without draining the tank. And now we put people out of water. Now we don't have firefighting water. So it covers a couple issues for us. So we actually started doing that on Sunday morning, started walking all the tanks up. On losing my days, today's Tuesday. So last night we started getting the first shutdowns coming through. And when the first ones came through, they all came really quick after that. Essentially, we have 12 sites that are without power right now. 10 water sites and 2 wastewater sites. The 2 wastewater sites have generator backup. So those generators are running. One of them is Horse Creek over here, and the other one is Rancho Viejo. Side note to that, all of Horse Creek and all of Rancho Viejo is without power as well. Right? No issues. The stations are working as they should be. The generators are working as they should be. That's on the sewer side. On the water side, because we have so much water, we have yet to run our backup generators. And those backup generators are what power the pump stations to pump water in the tanks. But we have yet to run those. So essentially, we're in a good position right now. I just got a text from SDG&E that said the Santa Ana conditions have improved and they're in the process of looking to re-energize some of these, we call them circuits. That process involves their staff going out and physically driving the electric lines to make sure nothing's fell down. There's no branches on the lines, things of that nature. Once they complete that, then they can start re-energizing. We don't know how long that's going to take. The original estimate was Friday as far as the power outage went. That was what they originally gave us. The Santa Ana event was peaking today and lasting through tomorrow. So we anticipated either tomorrow night or Thursday as far as re-energizing everything. But I'm getting text messages that say things are getting better. So hopefully sooner than later. Director Hoffman?
Is this an organized shutdown right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm at Rainbow last night eating dinner and I'm in the complete black and I'm like, whatever, we'll just keep our conversation going. But that was when you were texting me, Patty, or Rod was about, is your electricity up? I didn't know that wasn't organized.
Yeah, so it's called a public safety power shutoff, and SDG&E, they preemptively kill the power to certain communities where Santa Ana winds are going to impact their power lines, because some of the fires in the past have started because of SDG&E's lines. So the wind goes and the lines whack each other, or a tree branch falls on the lines, sparks, and then the sparks hit the ground.
Until Friday?
Good.
That was their initial estimate, was Friday.
Yeah.
People have jobs. This is crazy.
Oh, yeah. I have no hot water in my house.
The light,
Because I have a new tankless system.
the lilac fire that burned over here, we were out without power for 4 days. Yeah.
So I'll just add, as of this morning, 50,000 people in the county without power.
Right.
If you go to the SDG&E website,
They'll show you.
there's amazing tools. There's planned outages, and it includes Escondido on the west side of the freeway right now. So, and the backcountry would be as expected. But I was watching live this morning, starting about 5:30, as there were more blue flags were coming up throughout the county, and they were saying 72 hours. The other thing, if you're affected by this, go to the SDG&E website, because there's dollars available depending on your circumstance to purchase generators or self-generation at home.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's those numbers. I looked just before we came, and about 51,000 out of service across SDG&E's service area. Potential for another 67,000 customers, but sounds like maybe it's going the other way.
Maybe. And some of the communities that they listed, like Julian's completely out.
Yeah.
I think Ramona might be completely out. Campo, Alpine, they're all
Wow, it
completely
gets
out.
cold up there.
They were reporting when I came in on, they'd had gusts to 91 at one area up on 8.
Yep.
And 82 someplace else. Miles an hour. Trailers are flipped over. Hey,
So it just, I just wanted to give everybody that update that as a utility, we do our due diligence to plan for these events and make sure that we have redundancy both in our water and wastewater system so we can handle this. The other component of this is what if a fire breaks out like the Lilac fire, like the Rice fire, and you're in this type of situation? But we have a whole different contingency to deal with that as far as a water utility. And basically we get to the command post, we try and figure out where the fire's going, what is it going to affect on our infrastructure? Because it can be going somewhere and they'll start killing the power and it's totally unrelated to the current public safety power shutoff. Or maybe we have crews working in that area that we need to evacuate out of there. So we're very proactive with North County Fire and CAL FIRE in that regards.
Yeah. Yeah, the gentleman that was here earlier, this is another reason why it's really important to have, we actually meet with them quarterly. We meet with North County Fire quarterly, and these guys have basically on-demand communication with all the local emergency agencies. So it's really good partnership.
The water station. So the Sky Crane was mentioned, the SDG&E helicopter. Is that not compatible with this? It's not. Oh, it is. So I'm not sure. It sounded like there was a disconnect that they weren't able to fill.
So yeah, on the Garden Fire, they're running the SDG&E Sky Crane. They're running the SDG&E Apache and 2 sheriff's helicopters. Then they had a bunch of fixed wing helicopters. What happened was they initially all went to the heli hydrant, all the helicopters, but they got stuck basically in the pattern waiting for each one to fill up. And because the fire was so close, their turnaround time, they were just getting backed up. So they sent the SDG&E helicopters over to Vessels or Ocean Breeze to dip out of their ponds. And they let the sheriff's helicopters use the heli hydrant. And that kept everybody separate and kept them from backing up. And the 2 sheriff's helicopters, he would come in, get water. As he was taking off to go drop, the other one was already coming in to get water. That's how close they were. So it was just because the fire was too close. They didn't have any flight time to spread them out. But we did do a test 2 years ago where we ran 6 helicopters in about 6 hours on that heli hydrant, and we never drained it. Because it refills right when it drops about 2 feet, it starts refilling all the way. And the Sky Crane takes about 1,000 gallons in one shot.
So I'm a grower, southernmost district, as you know. How long can we go without power? Because up to this point, pre-separation, I was all gravity feed. Now I've been watering 24 hours in advance of this around the clock. And if I run out of water, it's a major financial hit. So if the power were to go out for these new stations, is there still limited flow kind of gravity, or do we actually need power?
Well, we've got backup. We have backup.
Well, yeah, station.
Not on all of them, but we have the ability to move water up into that zone with backup power. Diesel generators. Yeah. Yep.
So Turner, Hutton, and Gopher are all divided in their own subzones right now. We can pump water from one of those pump stations that has a generator backup, and we can open up the valves so all 3 of those tanks see each other. So it's like a triple redundancy backed up by a generator now. Yes, sir.
Side issue. When we were in the conference last week, a couple of directors were talking, because we heard there was a emergency mandate on the mission repair. And so can you give me an update on the repair on mission?
Absolutely. So in late November, we had a water main break on Mission Avenue just south of La Cañada. It was a 20-inch line that went underneath Mission Avenue. So 20-inch line, probably about this big. It was inside of a steel casing. And the reason it was in that steel casing for exactly what happened, as you know, when water mains break, they can create sinkholes and destroy roads. On main thoroughfares like that, it's not uncommon that the pipe is inside of a steel casing. So when it breaks, it shoots the water to the sides of the road and doesn't run the road. So we didn't know that because all the water was coming out on the side of the road. So we shut the water off, dug it up, and we're like, hey, we don't see the leak right here. turn it back on. We actually were able to look in the steel casing and we could see the water coming from way inside the steel casing. We cut both ends of the pipe and capped it and turned the water back on. Then we called a contractor who did installed what's called a Primus liner for us as part of the Thoroughbred project. And we said, hey, do you have any 20-inch Primus liner? We need 110 feet of it and we need it tomorrow. And he said, and this was on a weekend, we're calling. And he said, I got it. And he said, I can have a crew out there on Thursday. And this is a Saturday. And we said, okay, let's do it. So we put everything together, got everything dialed in, went out there, redug everything out, got everything prepped. They showed up on that Thursday, pulled the liner through, and then our crews on both sides of Mission Avenue reconnected all the pipe up. And then we were able to turn the water back on. So it was a couple of long days out there, really long days. But what we did is essentially bulletproof that pipe going under Mission Avenue now. So you've got a liner inside of a 20-inch pipe that's inside of a steel casing. And that's how we solved it without having to go dig up Mission Avenue. The other alternative was to call a contractor, and Jake and I talked about this to the tune of maybe a $0.5 mil, $0.75 mil, and have them do what's called a jack and bore operation, where they basically push the old pipe through the liner and pull in a new one. If the liner, if not the liner, if the casing, so they push that old pipe out of the casing, that's assuming the casing stays in place. If it doesn't, if it starts to move, then it's a whole different ballgame. So our crews were able to do all that in-house, and all we needed that contractor was to pull that liner through for us. So it went out pretty good, and it was a good use of the liner. It was a perfect use for it.
Was that company nearby?
So Chad, are they local or Arizona?
They're based out of Arizona.
Yeah. The guy I was talking to had a 760 area code. He sounded like he was local, but all their stuff was coming from Arizona, and their crews were out of Arizona.
Yeah, they used to have Southern California offices, but they've relocated all of their crews to Arizona, and then from there they branch out across the country.
Well, I want to say congratulations on a good job.
Thank you.
Oh,
Not me. Those guys working hard, long hours out there.
No, I mean, to think, to come up with that idea, I don't know who came up with it, but that's way to go.
And we had some good mutual aid. FPUD came out and helped us for a little bit. We were looking for some parts, and Rancho Water came and brought us some parts that we needed. Sometimes it's hard to find parts at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And 20
For a
inches,
20-inch line.
20 inches is a little bit of an oddball size, but all the water districts do that. We all share parts and stuff like that and help each other out. Yeah, it was a good one.
Thank you, Robert.
Welcome.
Any other questions for him? Thank you.
Thank you.
Engineering report?
We provided a written report. Nothing to add unless the board has any questions.
Any questions for Chad? Administrative services report?
Just wanted to give a quick update on the recruitment for the CFO position. We have about 80 applications. Probably 20-ish have some sort of public agency experience, but there's really only like less than 5 with water, a couple of cities. So we're reviewing them. We're trying to determine the candidates that we're going to invite for interview. We're going to attempt 1 round of interviews next week, and then we'll probably have to do additional rounds in January. So that's the update so far. It's a very
Everything's on autopilot right now.
It's a very challenging time of year to be recruiting.
Yeah.
It's even more challenging because it's the second time in a year that we've had to recruit for this position. So it's a tough market right now. So that's where we are at the moment.
Not on autopilot. What? No, I'm helping. But no, we actually have retired annuitant. So former director of finance from the North County Transit District, who retired several years ago, is subbing for us. She actually spent a couple of weeks with Rick. Primarily, we just the audit is going on. And so that's kind of primary oversight of the audit. but then also, helping out with some of the day-to-day stuff too. So we've got some internal help and then, and a little bit of help with that'll help with the transition too. So.
Carlene, can I ask you, are there any people that interviewed before that have reapplied for this position?
There are people who applied before who reapplied, but no one who was interviewed.
Okay.
And we have actually, because when we hired Rick, there were several really strong candidates that we interviewed. So we reached out to the ones that, that weren't selected and invited them to reapply, but they haven't.
They got really great jobs too.
They probably got really good. Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
We had a nice doctor with the Sendag lady.
Lauren, yeah.
Yeah. So we're still working. I'm doing a lot of outreach on LinkedIn directly to candidates who work for water agencies, cities, any agency where they're likely to have the caliber of experience we're looking for, and help making sure they're aware of the position, inviting them to apply. I've done, Zoom informational meetings with lots of people to kind of share about the district and why it's a great place to work and what the opportunity is. So it's just, people aren't in that mindset necessarily this time of year. So we'll see. It might be to be continued in January, but we'll see how the interviews go next week.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Finance.
The little check, yes. Haven't sent him the big one yet. Haven't sent him the big one yet.
That's the 89th day.
Day 89. Right. We'll see.
Finance report.
I guess I'll handle that one. A couple things. Water sales are up for the year. Pretty warm summer. I think we're up about 20% from last year. So, and relatively similar to a couple of years ago. So kind of reminiscent of, I think maybe 3 years ago where it wasn't so wet and cool and that kind of thing. So, so a little bit of a rebound there. I think we were looking, we had budgeted 10,000 acre feet for this fiscal year, which was very similar to what we did last year. Of course, a very wet winter, and it was a very cool summer. So with the, what we've seen so far this year, assuming if it just went the same way it did last year, we would be in that 12,000, so up maybe 15 or 20% on water sales. And that's, a net positive for us, as, financially speaking. On the reserve side, we did make the, initial water authority payment. And so, this, and again, the financial plan that we showed you, back earlier this year, this is kind of the low point as far as the reserves go. We knew the payments were coming. We knew the pump station, we'd be wrapping up the pump stations, and so a lot of that, those cash payments going out as well. So from here, really, this is kind of the start of the recovery on some of the cash reserves, but that's kind of where we sit today. So those were kind of the highlights of the finance report.
Okay. Reports and comments, legal counsel report.
Thank you, President Hamilton. First, welcome to Director Hoffman and to Director Irvine. Look forward to meeting you both and working with you. For today's attorney report, I did a written report and update on recent changes to the Brown Act, which of course governs our meetings, notices, agenda, conduct, public comment, etc. There were 4 updates. There were 2 pieces of legislation and 2 attorney general opinions. The 2 pieces of legislation, they both become effective next month on January 1st. The first update deals with remote participation. Generally, when directors remotely participate, there are a number of requirements. The location must be on the agenda, but there's an alternative method. For instance, if there's a reason where the director doesn't want the location on the agenda, you can use Assembly Bill 2449, which passed during the pandemic. And it allows remote participation without the location on the agenda, but you have to show, emergency circumstances or just cause. And you can only use that exception a limited number of times each year. And that's where this new legislation comes in. Currently, The exception can be used for no more than 3 consecutive months or for no more than 20% of the calendar meetings in a calendar year. And only twice if there's an agency that meets less than 10 times per year. So the new law allows this. You can use the exception 2 times per year if the agency meets once per month. But that's the rule that would apply to us. There's 5 times per year if the agency meets twice per month, or 7 times a year if the agency meets 3 or more times per month. The second update deals with there's a new law on closed session for cybersecurity threats. This one's more of a clarification because there's an existing code that's generally interpreted to allow closed session for cybersecurity threats, but it focuses mostly on the way it's written on threats to public facilities and essential public services. But this amendment makes it clear that, you know, boards can meet in closed session to discuss cybersecurity threats. And it states specifically that non-physical threats to critical infrastructure controls and critical infrastructure information is included. And then the third update, and this is an issue that has been raised from time to time about the intersection of the Brown Act with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And, you know, with the various Brown Act requirements for, you know, in-person meetings and limits on remote participation, you know, the question has arisen, what if, you know, there's a director with some sort of physical disability that makes it infeasible to attend the board meetings in person. And the Attorney General came out and issued an opinion concluding that yes, under the ADA, remote participation is a reasonable accommodation under the Brown Act for a director with disabilities, but went further to say the remote attendance must still, quote unquote, simulate in-person attendance. So the director must use, you know, two-way video and audio streaming in real time and disclose the identity of adults present in the room, which is a similar requirement under the AB 2449 I mentioned. And then the last update deals with Brown Act and public events. So the Attorney General recently provided an opinion on the Brown Act's application to public events. The question sometimes arises, you know, when it's a public event or a community event, you know, and a majority of the directors attend, does the Brown Act requirements apply? It's kind of interesting. The issue arose here. There's a Chamber of Commerce meeting and the mayor delivered a State of the City address and a majority of the city council members were present. They didn't do the Brown Act notice requirements because they felt that the community meeting exception applied. But the Attorney General disagreed. He said, because the majority of council members were present, the matters were within the subject matter jurisdiction of the agency, and it was those items were discussed. The conference exception did not apply because he said the conference exception requires that the topic be a matter of general interest to the public, but this involved just a single speech by a single official regarding the state of a single agency. And he also opined that the community meetings exception didn't apply because the event must be open to the public. And he interpreted it as not being open to the public because here the public could only attend by purchasing a ticket. So provide some guidance, you know, if we host an event or the majority of the board members attend a you know, public event or a community event, how you can still do so and comply with the Brown Act at the same time. So latest legal updates on the Brown Act, and that concludes my report.
So are you saying if he didn't have to pay for a ticket, then it would have been okay?
Right. That was pretty much what it boiled down to. Under that community exception.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And, you know, because he kind of discussed two exceptions. So for the community meeting exception, that was the key event that it, you know, public. For the other one, for the conference exception, we rely on that event. Like when we go to Aqua and CSBA, you know, we can all go and attend, go to receptions and do everything like that. But there he was saying, you know, it has to be more of general interest. You know, it can't just discuss, you know, one item under, you know, your particular agency jurisdiction, more of, you know, regional matters of interest or statewide matters of interest, then it will be okay.
Cancel that birthday party you were all gonna have.
Darn.
Joe Manager's report.
Yeah, a few things. And I think there's a lot of eyes. Actually, as we speak, Metropolitan is considering the funding for the Delta Conveyance Project. So they're about a 47% share of that project. Delta Conveyance Project is basically the bypass pipeline that would, basically intercept stream flows and bring them down through the Bay Delta without having to go through the Bay Delta. There's a lot of environmental restrictions and things like that apply. And so the big thing is they're about a 47% share of that project. And it's about $141 million that they're talking about. And that's just to finish, that is to finish the planning and entitlement. So getting it all ready. A lot of it is physical, though. There's a lot of geotechnical work and things like that that's associated with it. But they're actually taking that up today. And so a lot of news surrounding that. It was even, Governor Newsom was reaching out to board members. The state's obviously very interested in constructing that project. They want to build that project to secure those water supplies. The fear is with less snow, more rain, it's going to be difficult. Their projections show losing 10-20% of that supply over the next 20-30 years. And so trying to put a project in place to make sure we maintain that state water project supply, but it's not cheap. So it's a single tunnel that would divert that water. The 141 million is not factored into their current rates. So they would be, and so they did an analysis on that. I kind of looked right before, it's part of their presentation. Looks like net impact to their would be their budget year 27 of about 3%. They did about a 3% rate increase due to that project. I guess a portion of it they're going to get some of that back, I think, from the state, but I didn't fully understand what that was. But anyways, about a 3% impact, but they're taking that up today. So we'll see how that goes. If they don't support, then the project really has trouble because they are almost a half share. There's a host of other agencies, 16, 17, 18 other agencies that have much smaller shares. Most of them have already pledged their support for this funding, but it's a much larger number for Met. We had talked about this a little bit. Met offering this reverse cyclic program through its member agencies. Met has a bit of a funding gap. Their sales are down, and they had made some budget assumptions that they would, get some additional revenues in, but it really wasn't identified how exactly they were going to do that. And so they do a 2-year budget. What they've come up with is this program is called the reverse cyclic program. Long story behind that. But in essence, you're going to pre-purchase water. So they're going to get the money up front. They're going to deliver it to you at some point down the road. They actually decide when they're going to deliver it to you. It has to be within a 5-year period, and you have to be able to accept it when they tell you it's coming. So there is some return on that, because you're going to pay today's rates for tomorrow's deliveries. So there is a return on it. They're going to offer, initially they said 50,000 acre feet, both this year and next year. But it sounds like they could be just offering the whole 100,000 acre feet. So it's about a $60 million, about $60 million in cash that they would receive if it's fully subscribed. I expect it will be fully subscribed. I know Eastern is going to participate. From our perspective, and me and before Rick left, me and Rick hit this pretty hard just to see what our options were, just because of the reserve levels. I think we really don't have the option to participate this year. Potentially next year, if it's still available. There might be something there, but anyways, it is an interesting program. We'll kind of monitor it and see how it goes. And I think they're going to take that up next week, mid-December. Met will be taking that up. One more Met item, and this involves the County Water Authority as well. They did approve, I guess, like a round 2 of the program that they did last year where they left water in Lake Mead. So basically it's a deal between the Bureau of Reclamation, Met, County Water Authority, and Imperial Irrigation District, where the County Water Authority will agree to purchase 50,000 acre feet from Met. So basically it's coming from the State Water Project. And in return, they leave that 50,000 acre feet in Lake Mead. So it's basically a boost to the Colorado River. The Bureau of Reclamation throws money at it. So they basically pay the parties to conserve that water at Lake Mead and in the Colorado River, just because of the low levels and the need for recovery out there. So the news was they inked another deal for another 50,000 acre feet. And so that's happening. And it kind of works out for all parties because the feds introduce funds into the mix. It kind of reduces everyone's costs. So they all save a little bit of money and the water stays. The federal government pays, basically pays to keep that money on the river.
Speaking of water quality, how does that impact Skinner, which we're still seeing almost all of our water from Skinner now exclusively? So the goal was to keep, it was stated to keep Skinner at least 25% state project water. Are we going to see a better blend?
Yeah, I don't know if it's immediate. The idea is, San Diego County Water Authority has that the take or pay amount, the 200 and whatever it is of the lining water. What is the name of that?
All American Canal.
Yeah. So, but they have a set amount. So they're going to take a reduced amount. So so in essence, 50,000 acre feet of additional state water projects should come through Skinner
Into Skinner.
at some point. They may trickle it in over time, or I'm not sure exactly how. That's a
Plus, yeah.
Yeah, that's an operational thing, but yeah, you should see 50,000 acre feet. Because it really isn't just a paper exchange. Those molecules have to come. Yeah, it'll have to come through Met. So
For the new board members, what Rick is talking about is that water coming out of the State Water Project is, if you will, sweeter water for the growers than Colorado River water.
Yeah.
So the more water we can get into Lake Skinner, the lower the TDS value, total dissolved solids, go, which is good benefit to our growers.
Yeah, Lake Skinner is a blend of both of those sources, which is good for drought conditions, right? We have access to both, but the State Water Project, the salt content is much, much less. So when there's a deeper blend of State Water Project, that's what happens. And it's the QSA water. That's what I was trying to come up with. QSA. Water.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you a list of acronyms too. So. There you go.
Yeah.
Go.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Something we talked about, and I said we would bring it back this month, and so we've started work on this with all the actions that occurred at the November board meeting. We talked a lot about cost of service, and so really two things. We had a consultant that had done our cost of service study back in 2023, so they have our rate model. And so now with the switch to Eastern and really all the actions that was taken, how we were going to deal with the exit fee and all these different inputs that are now kind of firm, right? We know exactly what we're going to do. We've got them updating that model. So they're going to update our rate model. They will provide some analysis too, kind of our average customer savings from detachment, if you were here, so they're going to do a little bit of that analysis. Doesn't take too much. They already had the model built. So that's kind of a light task. But once that's done, there's kind of a phase 2 where, potentially relooking at that cost of service and, do we want to do anything different? We've talked about a lot of different options. different concerns that different customers have and things like that. And so so the board will have a chance to look. Again, they're just going to give us a proposal. We are going to move on the first phase of that task because it has to be done. We got to update the rate model and do all that. When we get to that second phase, there'll be some additional board discussion on what exactly we want to look at and but we'll have the ability to do that. So anyways, so that is in progress, and you'll hear more about that January, February as we get into budget and those kind of things.
Is that when you anticipate that report will be ready? Is in February?
Well, we'll have the rate model updated. The report will take longer because it's going to take some. If we want to make any changes, it takes quite a bit, right? It takes quite a bit. So so that is a little bit of a heavier task, but we will talk through those things, and obviously we'll bring some to you and outline some things for you. But anyways, we'll be talking about things you'd like to see as part of that effort. So Carlene already talked about the finance manager, CFO. Appreciate that. The red flag warning, we already talked about that. Do we have the video? Okay. So yeah, and you may have seen it, but we actually had two news outlets that wanted to cover the heli hydrant, the use of the heli hydrant, CBS 8 and ABC 10. So this is the CBS 8, but it ran pretty good. And I think, man, I keep everybody that I run into, they've seen it. So, so it's pretty cool.
The water that's in this tank can be used in water drops to fight fires within a 10-mile radius of here. On Friday, it was a game changer for the garden fire that burned just in this valley below. This is CBS 8 chopper video over the garden fire in Fallbrook Friday. Huge flames swept up the mountainside, triggering mandatory evacuations.
We were really worried about this fire potential for 100 acres with structures immediately threatened.
After they dropped the water they had, helicopters searched for more water sources. And for the first time ever, they were able to use this new dedicated water tank for helicopters fighting wildfires in San Diego County.
We know we can depend on this. This isn't like a stock pond or a golf course where we go and then we fly there and we find out, well, there's no water in there, and then we're hunting around looking for a water source.
The tank is called a Rapid Aerial Water Supply, built for $150,000 in 2022 through a partnership between North County Fire Protection, CAL FIRE, and the Rainbow Municipal Water District.
Not something the water district normally handles, but again, these are our customers, and so this is taking care of our customers and their properties.
The tank pulls water from the water district's tower beside it. Pilots can access 350 to 1,000 gallons of water at a time in less than 3 minutes. And because it's on a hilltop, the choppers save fuel by avoiding long hauls up from ponds or lakes.
The really large helicopters, the Chinooks, the Type 1s, because they're really limited on where they can fill. Sometimes we're flying them, previously maybe all the way back to Lake Hodges to fill. So having something like this can really reduce our turnaround times.
And as crews deal with fast-moving wildfires, every second counts. Water runs that take several minutes can happen in a fraction of the time with this open-top water tank, helping stop fires before they burn out of control.
This tank behind me here was hit 35 times by helicopters that refilled their water supply on Friday as the fire was burning.
You can still see the burn scar up on the mountain and the red fire retardant, but no homes burned and no one was hurt.
Ideally, if we could have one of these within about 10 air miles across the entire county.
Right now, this is the first one of only 2 in San Diego County. The other one is now in San Marcos. In the Rainbow Water District, this is Anna Laurel for CBS 8.
So there's actually 3 now. There's one in San Marcos. Vallecito's put a little different style, but they put one in, and then there's also one out at the Safari Park. Tried to use these to kind of push that message that we need more of these. We actually have a site, the Gomez tank site out on the east side, that was approved for a second location, and so we would really like to receive some funding to help with that and build that second site. The news story that we did with ABC 10, I really pushed that. I tried to push that really hard, and that was kind of their message at the end was, well, we need more of these, and they're trying to find funding, and so I think we're going to be really pushing on that to try to get that built.
Awesome.
Someone pay for this water they're throwing out fires?
It's not that much money.
Yeah.
They don't. We usually don't request reimbursement. I mean, you're talking.
It's kind of like the fire hydrant. Think of it as a rural fire hydrant.
Yeah. I remember we calculated 35 drops, 300 gallons, 300 gallons of drops. So you're talking 9,000 gallons. It's $17 worth of water. Or something like that. Yeah, it wasn't much. And I mean, obviously,
Fixed charge.
A lot more than that with the helicopter.
speaking of cost of service, there you go. So anyways, obviously a great success story for a project that Rainbow did. And I think we'll be looking for funding and trying to do more of that. And I think even just the publicity kind of gets it out there to everybody else too. Like, hey, we need to do things like this. So
Is anybody contacted like the insurance companies or so many people are getting dropped for fire issues, et cetera.
So I can talk briefly on the insurance company part of it. So there's a rating called the ISO rating. That insurance companies, it's one of the ratings they use for insurance. So we reached out to the ISO people and said, hey, we've got this fantastic tool. What does that do for you? And they said, nothing. They said the ISO, what does more for them is the location of fire hydrants relative to structures, the equipment that the fire department's using, because it's based on structure fires, and this tool is used for wildland fires.
I think MIG was
Even
working
though
on
there
the fire.
happened to be some homes in those wildlife.
Correct.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think MIG brought it up. It was last year, or the year before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And so we looked into it and had those back and forth conversations. And that was their response to us. They're like, this is not made or designed to be used for structure fires. And that's what the insurances are focused on, is structures.
Mhm.
This is, it can be used. Of course, it's going to be used on, it could be, but that's not how they look at it. So they look at it, when we work with them, they say, how much pressure do you have in your system? How many hydrants? What are the locations on the hydrants? What kind of equipment does the fire department have? And they put all that together and give a rating for your fire protection, I guess. The other thing is the state came out with new wildland fire mapping and kind of made the area larger. So I think the insurance companies might have been looking at that too.
I think probably our most likely it'd be, FEMA through Cal OES, likely source of funding. SDG&E may be a good partner. I mean, they've got the choppers, and they're investing a ton of money into wildfire
Operational
prevention. Yeah, between undergrounding and everything else. So maybe some potential there. I had one other: FEMA, Cal OES, SDG&E. But those are kind of avenues we'll be looking at.
Saturday, the 14th.
Open house, yeah.
The conflicts with the Army Navy games, so I'm only
Oh.
Yeah.
I wanted to go.
That was the other one I was thinking of. The earmarks. The earmarks.
Earmarks,
Those are a
yeah.
great story for those earmarks too.
Fair plan. Bigger homes that aren't gonna go to fair plan, the commercial insurance, the insurance.
Yeah.
Plus, well, just the personal side, I have a 10,000-gallon tank on my house to firefighting, because 8,000 lots, this is on the big island, one fireman.
Yeah.
So I'm explaining to Armed Forces Insurance and Livermore, Kansas, what exactly this is, so I can get fire insurance in my house. So shifting the conversation, because this is so unique. Sometimes you have to educate.
Yep.
Because this has huge value.
Yeah.
And my tank didn't cost anything close.
Yeah.
Deal.
That's all for me.
Along the same lines, one of the vendors at the Aqua Conference is been in contact with Robert. They have the semi-portable tanks. He mentioned that they were trying to work with the insurance, with ISO, to try to get some consideration being given to these rural communities. And I also had a conversation with Brian Jones relative to CAL FIRE, California Fair Plan. And there's some movement in the Senate that will be taken after the new session starts. They wanted to delay after the vote, because I talked to him before the vote. I'm under California Fair Plan, and I've watched in 2 years my insurance rates go double. at least double. In fact, I dropped some of my coverage because of it.
Massive failure, fire. I'm sure it's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. Oh. Jake, one question I could on the rates. I'm glad we're doing another rate study, but you meant, 218 ties our hands with ag. Is there anybody looking at even creating a white paper, what it would take to break out cost of service for ag? Because if we could get more water at a better cost,
Yeah.
we're the solution to the problem.
Yeah, I think all those things will be on the table. I mean,
Table,
that's, yeah.
Board members' comments? Want me to start? Bunch of us were at the Aqua Conference last week. Interesting enough, one of the hottest topics there was relative to 218. We had a law passed this past year that takes effect January 1st, called AB 2257. One of the problems with 218 is that you could have protest votes at any time after the rates had been set, a year, 2 years, whatever. And AB 2257 basically limits the protest period and the way that you can protest, which makes it tremendously beneficial, if you will, to the agencies in terms of legal defense and things like that. I mean, we got nailed about a year and a half ago with a class action suit over cost of service relative to fire hydrants and the way they were apportioned in 218 that involved 32 agencies across the state. And we got sucked into that. We finally got excluded, but yeah, I mean, then this was years after some of the 218, some of the rate settings had been finalized in proportion, but they had a ratepayer that went, oh no, I don't like it, so I'm going to protest it. So I think it's more fair and equitable to both the agencies and really to the ratepayers as well, because you end up footing the bill when these challenges occur. So
yeah, that's the thing. That's a really good point. That was an Aqua sponsored legislation, and it really kind of digs into the whole, exhaustion of administrative remedies problems, because you have situations like the lawsuit that we defended, where people, they don't, you're considering your rates. They don't give you any notice of what their, objections are. The board is considering this without it, but then later they'll file, a lawsuit under who knows what. And it's the first time you even hear that there was an objection on those grounds. But this AB 2257 makes it quite clear that, if there's an objection, they have to, come to the board meeting, make the directors aware of their issue, put it in writing or orally on the record. And if they don't do that, they have no basis for a lawsuit. They fail to exhaust their administrative remedies.
Yeah. That pretty much summarizes a very good conference. It was amazing the number of agency people that I had lunch with and things like that. Oh, Rainbow, we know about you. How's detachment going? And some follow-on rumors of some follow-on agencies trying to do the same thing. So there was something similar. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll talk when we get to CSDA.
Okay. Patty, you have anything?
No.
Okay. Board reports, CSDA.
Yes, last month we had a quarterly meeting, and the spokesman was from the Weather Bureau, and he was unfortunately not be able to be there, but he zoomed in and he had a whole bunch of slides, and it was very fascinating. He was actually talking to us while he was at work. So that was really interesting. And what was interesting part was he was showing how the climate has changed. The uptick in the weather has gone up several degrees. And it was really fast. I think it was September 17th or October 17th. Palm Springs was the hottest place in the world. And it was just like, I had 117 degrees. And it's just like, wow. And so it was fascinating to see the weather in specifically in our area in Southern California.
I attended the same meeting. It was an interesting presentation by the NOAA representative. And the fact that he basically said, we really can't predict the weather. He talked about El Nino and La Nina and how, and I never can remember which way is which, but they forecast dry years and had wet ones. Like, what was it, last year, a year before, we had the atmospheric rivers in a La Nina situation, highest rainfall. The June, July, August, I guess July, August, and September are the hottest on record for California. Actually, the whole southwestern region was about 5.5 degrees above the normal average, which was interesting. But he also showed a graph where you can see it's very cyclical, unpredictable, but cyclical. You have cold times, you have hot weather. But it was interesting, other than the fact that the conclusion, though he never said it, was we really can't predict the weather. We're not very good at it yet. LAFCO?
Yeah, not a lot to report there. They, they did finally, or they finalized they were doing an Oceanside MSR. And we did get notice. This is something I did mention over the last couple of meetings. They were considering a change in their, I guess, their policy or their procedure when they do these. They call them municipal service reviews. So they'll look at an agency and just, how are you doing? You're being efficient, all these different things that, and they recently did the Oceanside one. It had a lot of, I guess, some controversy that surrounded it, just some of their community service districts, and they have the Harbor District and some things like that. So there were some things in there that they mentioned that, some folks didn't agree with and that kind of thing. And so they actually made a change in their procedure to include kind of this window of opportunity for the agency that's being reviewed to actually have a look at the draft and have time to review it and make comments. And so I think it's like a 60-day period. So we did get formal notice that they made that change. So, but other than that, not a whole lot.
Santa Margarita River Watershed Water Master Steering Committee doesn't meet until January, so nothing has happened there. Aqua?
Yes. Went to the conference. The very first day was JPIA, and JPIA was going over the rates that we'll be paying. They gave us an update on workman's comp. It's going to be flat. They're very proud that all the agencies are doing very well. There's not much on workman's comp. They were on property, though. They said, I believe it was going to be 8% roughly rise because of all the fires. I mean, it is what it is. And then they got into healthcare, and what was interesting was they said, I believe it was anywhere from like 5 to 8% that healthcare is going to go up. And they brought up on a slide different agencies, and the highest one was 29%, I believe it was, and it was United Healthcare. And I'm right next door. I'm like, who the heck is United Healthcare?
Oh, yeah.
And now I know who United Healthcare is. So that was kind of interesting. Then Aqua started in, and one of the really fascinating classes was on seeding clouds. And there's an I believe it's state and federal funded, and it's I believe it's in Riverside. It's a 4-year. They're doing this testing. They've already completed the first year, and their data came back to show that you can either do it from the ground, seeding from the ground, or through the air. And they have determined that it does, which I don't know how you can really determine this, but what they do is they seed it right before the storm. The storm is actually there. So they actually seed, and they showed a graph where you seeded, and then the wind blows the seeding, and then in this area where it's seeded, they had a really heavier downpour than they anticipated. And the fascinating part was the seating was cost, but it was really amazing. It was $20 an acre foot. So you know, it's actually very worth to seed because it's only gonna hit at $20. And that's what their numbers were, was $20 an acre foot. And I go, wow, that was pretty amazing. And but this upcoming year they had to cancel. I can't remember why they had to cancel, but they were gonna have to cancel this year and then start up next year. But that was very fascinating. And then another thing is when you get networking, I got to sit next to a gentleman that's the general manager at Coachella, and I had no idea, and he knew. And it was funny. He was Coachella, and I had these two gentlemen from Ontario, and then they go right off the bat, as Mr. Hamilton said, was, "Oh, how did that separation go?" And they gave me their cards and go, "We're thinking about doing the same thing," and they're from Ontario, and so they wanted a little bit of information, and so they did research. They knew quite a bit. And so them and another agency was right next to them. They're thinking of leaving whoever they are. But the one interesting talking to Coachella was he went on for me, he goes, yeah, we're only two agencies that don't get any water from anybody.
Yes.
And I'm going, what? And then, so he was quite proud of that. And they informed me that they have 50 million acre feet of groundwater. And then he goes, I go, wow. And then then he starts bragging how they refill the groundwater using Colorado River. And I go, oh, that's great. What's that cost? He goes, nothing. I'm going, nothing? Then he goes back, he says, 1928, they have these water rights.
Senior water rights.
Right. And so it's like they have all their water is free. And so what they have is, you know, the maintenance cost of the pipes and everything else, but their water is free. And it's just like, wow, what a great gig.
Yep.
So
A lot of golf out there.
Yep. A lot of golf courses they can afford to keep green.
Yep.
Yeah.
They didn't ping us too hard on Rick either.
Oh, I would like to, I told that Rick, I want to compliment Rick. I told him earlier that Rick in the industry is very well thought of. And as a board member, that really made me feel good that we chose you. And just wanted to let you know, I told you earlier that your PERS, everybody really think very highly. As a board member, again, that really felt good that we stole you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's it.
Go back to last one for a second. So San Diego County Water Authority is subject to an MSR coming up to this thing. So are we San Diego LAFCO or are we now Riverside LAFCO or are we both?
No, we're still governed. We're still San Diego County, so we're under San Diego
So
LAFCO.
you're gonna sit on the review.
Unlikely. But I think they're already in the middle of that. They're working on it, but I think it's been delayed.
That one, the water authority got delayed because they have a bigger problem with the health agencies.
Yes, they do.
So they're really bunkering down on the health agencies.
Yeah.
And also they have another one that they've potentially going to have to do because the city of La Jolla is looking at detaching.
Really?
Yep.
That makes sense.
City of San Diego. And interesting sidebar, Tom Kennedy has been hired as a consultant to help in that MSR.
Oh, he enjoys that.
I went,
Where are we?
yeah, we're gonna come, correct.
By the way, a good board. Just throwing that out there.
There's soda pop over there. Okay, committees, workshops and seminars and trainings, as we've heard about some of the seminars that we attended. Any additional things? Request to attend upcoming meetings, conferences and seminars. I think most of this can be deferred to because we'll be defining what the committee what the conference participations are and then the representations on those agencies.
I have a question for you. When Rick was here, he mentioned, I think it was gonna be like February, March, or April, where the directors were all gonna get together. We did this many years ago and it was very beneficial. That to give an update on finance, everything. It was very informal, but it was very helpful to all the board members. Are we still gonna do that?
Like a workshop kind of a thing?
Yeah, it was a workshop. It was like at Palo Mesa, we did it. Remember
It
we
was
did
a
that?
strategic planning workshop to update the
Yeah.
strategic plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are we still gonna do that or is that?
We haven't calendared anything yet, but there is we do need to update the strategic plan. So at some point we will. I don't know if it's
I
going to be
think
February.
the consultant fees for that were taken out of the budget for
Oh, so I
rate
guess we won't do it.
considerations.
Yeah, but it does require an update. We last updated in 2020. So, but there's nothing on the calendar as of now. But
Yeah.
Suggested agenda items for the next regular board meeting. I'd like to get a report on 2257. Because
Okay.
it requires some updates to your administrative code
Yeah,
in order
and
to define the process.
and actually that'll be on the January.
May
I
not have
think-
the process fully defined by then, but I think we need to keep that ball rolling.
Yeah.
I would like to research some solar resources because when I brought that up before, I was told, oh, that ship sailed and we can't do that. And I don't quite understand why.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, why can't we be putting power stations on some of our vacant land, et cetera?
Well, and also some of the pictures has changed. At one of the CSDA
Mhm.
meetings, I talked to the California, what is it?
CCAs, the new power providers.
The new power provider, and they're actually looking for solar,
Yeah, smaller projects too.
smaller projects.
There you go.
Yeah.
Point made.
Yes.
So I don't know if we can talk about that. I have a whole bunch of solar stuff in here from one of the meetings.
Also, I thought we were gonna do it this meeting because we tabled it. The roughly 800,000 we saved. When are we gonna discuss where we're gonna go with that?
Good point.
We can discuss in January if you like.
Good. I have ideas. I'd like to hear yours.
For the benefit of Greg and Lisa, what we're talking about is by us detaching in November instead of January 1st, there was about $750,000 in revenue, if you will, that we've saved. And the question is how do we proportion that out back to the ratepayers, offset our CIP reserves, et cetera. So there's an ongoing discussion as to what to do with those funds.
Sounds like a good discussion for the next meeting.
Yep. Any other suggested agenda items? If not, we'll adjourn to closed session and take a 10-minute break, 15-minute break.
Okay, thank you.
It's good.
Where's the cow?
What's to drink tonight? He's in Mexico. He's in Cabo.
Nice.
There's booze in the blender, guys.
Very jealous.
Me too.
I'll try not to make a habit of this, folks.
I would.
I would make a habit of it.
Well, at least not on the first meeting, I guess. Thanks for your indulgence. I appreciate it.
Are we waiting for him to be released?
We've got to get the recording. We have to go back into open session. Are you ready, Therese?
Yes, we're ready. Thank you.
Okay. This is resuming open session of the Rainbow Municipal Water District Board of Directors meeting for December 10th, 2024. Coming out of closed session. Council, do we have anything to report?
No, thank you, President Hamilton. The board met in closed session to discuss two items: conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2. Two items. Both matters were discussed and there's no reportable action.
Thank you very much. We're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Enjoy
Yeah.
Cabo.